Hey there, and welcome back. I'm Teresa. If you've been following along with this series, then you know we aren't just here to talk about productivity in the traditional sense. We've been auditing our spoons to understand our true capacity. We've been triaging our daily tasks to separate the essential from the urgent. We have even explored how to use voice-to-text dictation to save our hands and our physical alignment from the strain of endless typing. But today, we're tackling something that feels much more invisible. It's a phantom force that follows us from the classroom to our commute and even back home into our living rooms. It is quite arguably the single biggest energy leak in our professional lives, and I call it the ping trap. Think about your last 24 hours. How many times did your phone buzz, your desktop notification chime, or your inbox badge flash red with that little white number? Each time that happened, did you feel a small, subconscious jolt of pressure? We have lived through a massive cultural shift in education. We've moved into an era of hyperconnectivity, where an email from a parent, a message from an administrator, or a notification from a classroom app is expected to be acknowledged almost immediately. We have effectively conditioned ourselves, and by extension, the people we serve, to believe that a fast response is a good response. But I want to challenge that assumption today. I want to offer you a different perspective. A fast response is often just a distracted, burned out, and reactive response. When we operate in a state of constant interruption, we aren't actually giving our best to the people we communicate with. We're giving them the fragmented leftovers of our attention. The ping trap tells you that if you don't answer that message right now, you're failing. It tells you that your worth is tied to your availability. But what if you reclaim that space? What if you decided that your professional presence was more important than your immediate responsiveness? Today, we're going to dismantle the ping trap. We're going to talk about why the culture of constant availability is unsustainable for educators and really for anyone, and how we can systematically shift our workflow towards something much healthier, an asynchronous first mindset. It's time to move away from the expectation of being always on and towards a model where you are intentionally present. So let's dive in. Let's get honest about the mechanics of our day. You're in the flow. You finally sit down to grade those essays, or maybe you're mapping out your science unit for next week. You've got your coffee, your tabs are open, and your brain is finally engaged in that deep creative work. And then it happens. A notification slides across your screen, or maybe your phone, sitting face down on your desk, vibrates against the wood. Even if you don't touch it, you felt the interruption. Research in cognitive psychology tells us that every time you stop a complex task to acknowledge a notification, even just a glance at it, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to that same level of deep focus. Think about that. If you check your email 4 times an hour, you are mathematically preventing yourself from ever reaching a state of true, deep cognitive engagement. You aren't just distracted. You're being forced into a constant state of context switching. Your brain is a processor, and you are forcing it to crash and reboot every few minutes. I want to bring this back to our spoon audit. If you remember from our early episodes, we only have so many spoons a day. I want you to visualize your workflow as a series of spoons. You start the day with your set. You begin lesson planning. That's a spoon. You get an email notification about a scheduling change. That's a mini spoon. You pause your planning to read it. Feel that immediate spike of anxiety in your chest. Check your calendar, check your roster, and reply. That's 2 more spoons. Now look at the clock. You've been working for 10 minutes, and you've already spent half your energy budget just managing the input of information, not the output of your work. By the time you try to go back to that lesson plan, your brain is foggy. You're scanning the page, trying to remember where you left off, feeling that phantom pressure to check your inbox again just to make sure you didn't miss anything else. It is an exhausting cycle, and yet we do it to ourselves every day. Why? We have all bought into what I call the available all day fallacy. We tell ourselves this is just good customer service. We're being professional. We're being supportive. But I want to challenge you. Is it actually professional to be reactive? When we train parents, students, and administrators to expect an instant response, and that's exactly what we're doing. We are training them to expect that. Then we aren't performing a service. We're performing a role. We're performing the role of the always-on educator. It's a form of professional theater. We feel that if we don't respond to an email within 5 minutes, we're signaling to them that we don't care or that we aren't working hard enough. But if you think about the quality of the communication you provide in that instant state, is it really your most thoughtful work? Or is it a quick, defensive, or rushed sentence that often creates more questions? True professionalism isn't about being a human notification bell. It's about the stewardship of your own resources. If you are burned out, if your nervous system is fried from the constant pinging, you have nothing left to give the students that are sitting in front of you. The available all-day fallacy is a thief of your joy and the killer of your craft. You aren't failing because you didn't reply to an email at 10:30 a.m. while you were teaching a small group. You are succeeding by prioritizing the humans in the room or the humans on your screen over the ghosts in your email. So let's stop that exhaustion of performance and let's start protecting our work. One thing I have had to start doing is turning off the notifications for my personal chats and my personal emails. Those I check first thing in the morning, I check them at lunch, and then I check them when I get off work. My work email, yeah, it's always open. But again, I don't really look at it unless I'm doing absolutely nothing. I set that time from 8 to 9 to answer emails, answer phone calls, answer texts from parents, whatever I need. And then I also set that time from 4 to 5 to do the same thing at the end of the day. I'll glance at it at lunch, and if it's something important, I'll go ahead and reply if I have the time. But I've had to set that boundary. I have had parents and students email or message me about something at 10:30 at night. I think I even had one at 3:30 in the morning one time. And it was like back-to-back emails. Can you help me with this assignment? Did you get my email? I'm asking for help. It was just this constant back-to-back email. Are you going to answer me? And I'm like, it's 3:30 in the morning. I am sound asleep. I will check it when I log on in the morning. My work chat, that is always on. That's how we communicate because we are virtual. We can't just walk down the hall and say something to someone. That ping you're hearing in my background is my chat going off right now because we are wrapping up summer school. But that always on, mute your personal life when you're at work. Mute your work life when you're at home. Make sure that you're separating those two. It's not easy. Believe me, it is not easy. There are times I'll get a message and I'm like, yeah, I got 5 minutes, I can send a reply. But then I go back and I look at them like, just almost every reply when my mom is texting me throughout the day or when a friend is texting me throughout the day is just like 1 or 2 words instead of a deep, thoughtful response. So I try to wait until I have a moment where I can really put some thought into what I'm replying. The same goes with my email. If it's not important, I'm not going to look at it. If it is important, I'll prioritize it, but I'm still only going to reply during those set times of the day. It is time that we step away from the ping trap and being available all day. We're parents, we're teachers, we have a life outside of our classrooms and outside of our screens. We need to start living those lives. We've identified the ping trap, and we have admitted to ourselves that that available all-day performance is actually draining our battery faster than anything else possibly could. But how do we actually stop? How do we break the habit without blowing up our professional relationships? This is where we introduce the asynchronous first philosophy. Now, hear me out. When I say asynchronous, I am not talking about being cold, distant, or ignoring your responsibilities. I'm talking about a structural shift in how we exchange information. Think about the difference between a phone call and a handwritten letter. A phone call demands you to be there right now. It requires your immediate, undivided attention. On the flip side, a letter allows you to receive the information, process it, and respond when you have the capacity to give that response the attention it deserves. This is the essence of asynchronous first. It's the intentional choice to prioritize processing over reacting. It's the understanding that the other person will read it when they're ready, and you will read their reply when you are ready. It's a boundary, not a rejection. And I'm just as bad at the reaction emails as anyone else. I had an incident last year. Yes, last year. I had an incident in October of 2024, so almost 2 years ago. My dad had just passed away. So I was out for an entire week instead of the one day that I was scheduled to be out for a follow-up appointment with my surgeon. So I ended up being gone longer than I was expecting. I left my students plenty of work. It was all on Google Classroom. There were step-by-step instructions. Everything was there for them. When I got back the following week, the majority of my students, out of 7 classes of students, had not done any of the work at all. I went back and checked, and yeah, they were off task. I was able to look up their screen history, and yeah, they were all chast the entire time. And I told them that I was disappointed in them and that they had until midnight that night to get all that work done. They had a week the week before. I was like, you need to have it all in. It's already late. Around, I want to say 10 o'clock that night, I get an email from a parent asking, and she was irate. She was coming in hot, asking how I expected them to get all that work done in one night and they needed more time and yada yada. What I should have done was shut out my email and gone to sleep because I was laying in bed. I should have just gone to sleep and talked about it the next day. Looked at it the next morning when I actually had the brain capacity. My emotions were shot. My dad had just died. I was not doing well. I was already emotional from his passing. And then I was extremely irate with my students over them not doing work. And having this mom come in hot at me at 10:30 at night on a Monday, I didn't react well. I sent a reactive email, not a responsive email. And I did get talked to by my principal. That was a learning point. Take a step back. Make that boundary. Because that's exactly what it is. It's not a rejection. You're not rejecting the email. You're not rejecting the text. You're setting a boundary that says, this is when I'll get to it. Now, I know there is that immediate fear. You're sitting there thinking, Teresa, if I don't answer that parent email right now, they're going to think I'm avoiding them. Or if my principal messages me and I don't reply in 5 minutes, it looks like I'm not working. I hear you. But here's the reality of that. You are setting the terms of engagement by your actions. If your reply is always instant, you have implicitly promised that you are available instantly. You have trained the world around you to expect that level of performance. So how do we pivot? You have to be proactive. You have to communicate the change before you implement the change. This isn't about being unavailable. It's about the predictability available. There is a world of difference between I'm ignoring you and I'm in deep focus and I'll be back in your inbox at 3:30 p.m. When you shift to that asynchronous model, you're actually signaling that you value the quality of your work. You are telling your colleagues and your parents and your supervisors, I'm going to take the time to read your message thoroughly and give you a thoughtful response rather than a rushed one. And I want to encourage you to let go of the guilt. That guilt is just the ping trap trying to hold on. It's the fear that you're doing something wrong by taking care of your focus. But think about the quality of the interaction. When you are rushing to reply between transitions, or while you're trying to prep materials, or heaven forbid, you're trying to eat lunch, you aren't doing your best work. You're firing off a quick, perhaps slightly irritated, and overly brief response that lacks nuance. By moving to asynchronous first, you are giving yourself the gift of response ability. I'm not saying responsibility. I'm saying the ability of a good response. You are giving yourself the time to step back, regulate your nervous system, regulate your emotions, and write a reply that actually solves the problem rather than just checking a box. You're choosing to be intentional rather than reactive. And here's the beautiful side effect. When you respond thoughtfully on your own timeline, you often find that the urgent crisis actually dissolves. Many times the person who sent that message realizes the answer on their own, or they find another way to solve it simply because they weren't conditioned to expect you to be their instant solution machine. So the philosophy is simple. We do not live in our inboxes. We visit our inboxes. We go in, we process, we close, and we go back to our true work, which for most of us is teaching, mentoring, and creating. Now that we've framed the why and the how of the mindset, I want to move into the tactical. Because mindset is great, but we need tools that actually keep our hands off of our phones. Let's see what we got. All right, so let's get down to it. We've established that our focus is our most valuable professional currency. And we've committed to an asynchronous first mindset. But as every educator, business person, parent knows, mindset alone doesn't stop the phone from buzzing in your pocket. You need a system that effectively shields your focus. So let's look at 3 tactical changes you can make today to reclaim your time. Most of us have our phones set up in a way that's designed to keep us agitated. If your phone is constantly vibrating or lighting up with every notification from a classroom app, a parent email, or a school group chat, you are in a state of constant low-grade fight or flight. Go into your settings right now. Not later, not at the end of the day. Now. Turn off the badges. Turn off the banner notifications. Turn off the sounds. Keep notifications only for true, genuine emergencies. Maybe a direct phone call from your administrator or a family member. If it's an email about a field trip or a minor scheduling question, it does not need to interrupt your teaching or your planning. You are the architect of your digital environment. It's time to start acting. Second, let's talk about the schedule send strategy. This is my absolute favorite tool. I know many of you are working late at night. We're teachers. It's what we do. You're grading, you're prepping, you're trying to get ahead for tomorrow. And you feel the urge to send those emails off the moment you finish them. But when you send an email at 9 p.m., you're teaching the recipient that 9 p.m. is a reasonable time for you to be working. You're training them to expect you to be on. Instead, finish your draft, then hit that schedule send button. Set it to hit their inbox at 8 a.m. the next morning. You get the relief of having the task off of your plate, but you have protected your boundaries. You aren't available at night. You are simply working on your own time, and that changes the dynamic entirely. Third, and this is the one that might feel the most intimidating, we're going to use the auto reply boundary. You don't have to be on vacation to use an auto reply. Think of it as a welcome, I am currently in deep work signal. It's an incredibly professional way to manage expectations. You can keep it short and kind. Something like, "Hi there, thanks for your message. I am currently prioritizing student learning and lesson development. I check my messages twice a day at this time and this time. I will get back to you during those windows. If this is a genuine emergency, please reach out to school admin or principal. Otherwise, I will look forward to connecting with you during set times." It sounds simple, but it's really revolutionary. It stops the person on the other end from spiraling if they don't get an instant reply, because you've already told them when they can expect to hear from you. You've replaced their anxiety with certainty. And remember, this isn't just about email. Apply this to your classroom messaging apps as well. If that app has a quiet hours or a do not disturb feature, use it. Turn it on at 4 p.m. and don't turn it off until 7:30 the next morning. My personal work chat that we use, it's set from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. I have it on do not disturb. I get no chat messages during that time because that's my time. I set that as my time. You're teaching people how to treat your time. And every time you answer a non-urgent message at 8 p.m., you are essentially saying, my time at 8 p.m. is worth nothing. I know you value your time more than that. And it's time to start acting like it. These aren't barriers, they're guards. They are the tools that ensure when you are communicating, you are present, calm, and capable instead of being frazzled and reactive. And it's hard to set those boundaries. It really is. Especially if you've been teaching with the same group of parents or the same environment for a while. And you've already set that precedent of replying immediately. It's hard for people to accept those boundaries. But it's important that you set them. Having those boundaries is respecting yourself and respecting your own mental health. So now that we've got the technical side handled, the next big hurdle is the conversation itself. How do you actually explain this to people without sounding like you're checking out? So let's talk about some scripts that you can use to make this transition a little more seamless. All right, we've got the mindset and we've got the tools. Now let's tackle the part that usually keeps people stuck. The fear of the conversation. I hear you. You're worried that if you stop being the educator who always replies, you'll be perceived as unhelpful or worse, unreachable. But let's reframe this. Professionalism isn't defined by how quickly you type a reply. It's defined by the clarity and consistency of your communication. If you just suddenly disappear, people get anxious. But if you narrate your boundary, you become a leader of your own time. You aren't just doing this for you. You're modeling healthy digital habits for parents and colleagues who are likely just as burned out as you are. So let's talk about some scripts. I want you to have these in your pocket so you don't have to improvise when that spike of anxiety hits later. And if all else fails, ChatGPT or Google Gemini, it can help you draft these and make it sound professional so that you have them ready to go. If you're talking to parents, you want to lead with the why. And the why is always your students. So try something like this. Hi, to ensure I can provide the best possible support and attention to your student during the school day, I've shifted to an asynchronous communication model. I prioritize instruction and student-facing time during the day. So I'm moving to a schedule where I check and respond to messages at the beginning and at the end of each day. This change helps me stay fully present and focused on the learning happening in the classroom. I appreciate your partnership in making this work. You see what happened there? You didn't say, I'm too busy. You said, I'm prioritizing the students. That's a boundary that no one can argue with. Now, what about your administration? They might be the ones expecting the fastest response times. When talking to an administrator, you want to frame your boundary around output and efficiency. Try this script. I'm currently working on improving my classroom focus and output efficiency by batching my communication. To reduce the time I spend in reactive task switching, I'm moving to a twice daily check-in cadence for non-urgent messages. This is going to allow me to be much more thoughtful in my responses and ensure I'm not losing momentum during my prep blocks. I'll always be available if there is a genuine, urgent matter. But this change is going to help me be more intentional with my administrative tasks. Notice the difference? You're showing them that you're thinking about the quality of your work. You're not checking out. You're leveling up your efficiency. Now, if you're worried about how a colleague might react, just keep it short. You don't need to over-explain yourself. Just say something along the lines of, hey, I'm experimenting with some new productivity workflows to cut down on screen time. So I'm moving to a batching schedule for my inbox. If I don't get back to you immediately, don't take it personally. I'll be cycling back through my messages at this time and this time. That's it. It's transparent, it's polite, and it's firm. The goal here isn't to be a robot. It's to be a human who happens to have digital boundaries. When you start using these scripts, you'll notice something interesting. People actually start to respect your time more. When you treat your focus like it's valuable, others will start to treat it that way too. You are essentially teaching the people around you how to engage with you. And the best part, once they get used to the rhythm knowing, you'll respond at the end of the day. For example, the ping trap loses its power. They stop expecting the 10-minute reply. And you stop feeling the pressure to provide. It's not going to be easy. I've said that before. It's not going to be easy. You're always going to have that one colleague who needs that immediate reply. You're going to have that one administrator where everything's an emergency. You're going to have that one parent who expects you to drop everything and reply to them immediately. But the majority of people around you are going to respect this. It will take some time. But it's going to make your life so much easier. So now that we've got your scripts ready, it's time to move forward with the most important part of this process. Actually doing it. So how do we turn these words into reality? So let's close this out with your challenge for the week. And let's see just how easy this truly is. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've looked at the ping trap, the hidden cost of constant task switching, and why your focus is the most precious resource that you have in your classroom. We've explored the asynchronous first philosophy, set up your technical boundaries, and even scripted the conversations you need to have to protect your peace. But I want to be honest with you. Understanding the theory and actually doing it are two very different things. When you turn off those notifications or when you leave an email sitting in your inbox for a few hours because it's not check-in time yet, you might feel a twitch of anxiety. You might feel that phantom buzz in your pocket. This is normal. It's just your nervous system unlearning the hypervigilance that we've been conditioned to accept as normal. I want to give you a challenge. For the next 5 days, I don't want you to try to change your entire professional life by tomorrow morning. That is a recipe for overwhelming you and disaster. Instead, I want you to pick one channel. Maybe it's your email. Maybe it's that one messaging app that always seems to have a red bubble on it. For the next 5 days, commit to the twice a day rule. Pick 2 times. 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., 8 a.m., 5 p.m., where you commit to opening that app and processing the messages and then closing it. I want you to observe what happens. Watch your own internal state. Notice the difference in your energy when you aren't interrupted. Notice the quality of the work you produce when you're allowed to stay in the flow state for a full 45 minutes without a ping breaking your train of thought. Sustainability isn't about working harder or finding one more life hack. Sustainability is about doing less with more intentionally. It's about recognizing that you are a human being, not a communication relay station. You were hired to teach, to inspire, to guide, and to connect with students. You were not hired to be a 24/7 digital concierge. When you choose to protect your focus, you aren't abandoning your duties, you are honoring them. You are choosing to give your students and your colleagues your best self, rather than your distracted, burned out self. And remember, if you fall off the wagon, if you answer an email at 8 p.m. because you were tired and just wanted the red bubble to go away, it's okay. This isn't a pass-fail test. It's a practice. Just reset the next morning. Take a breath. Look at your workspace and choose to claim it today. If you found today's episode helpful, I'd love to hear how you're implementing your own asynchronous first boundaries. Tag me or send a message at your scheduled check-in time, of course. Thanks for joining me, for doing the hard work of auditing your energy, and for prioritizing your own sustainability. I'm Teresa. Take care. care of yourselves. And I'll see you in the next episode.